All right, we're rolling.
Cool.
Minister Myles, thanks for being here. Appreciate it.
No, thank you for having me. It's always an honor to sit down and chat with folks about what we're doing and how we're doing it.
Cool. Yeah, that's exciting. So, first thing I wanted to ask, this is the first time you ran?
No, I ran 4 years ago as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And so you didn't get in 4 years ago?
I did not get in 4 years ago.
Okay. I wanted to ask, what's the sort of, like when you get elected, right? Mm-hmm. And you realize that you won, and then you go into government, what's the thing that was the most surprising for you when you're in there, when you actually now been elected? Were you like thrown off by anything?
No, I wasn't actually. I don't think that anything was a surprise to me. I guess because I'm a former civil servant, and I'd worked in at least 4 different entities of the civil service. So very little was a surprise to me. I also believe that running with the Cayman Islands National Party was the difference maker for me. We were very prepared. A matter of fact, we were over prepared. We had a number of handlers who were very experienced people from the private sector and government who had prepared us for just about anything that happened, or that would come up, from budget preparation to tourism plans to national conservation to the dump to everything we went through in a 5 to 6 month period. So very little surprised me. We knew about where the government budget process was. We knew about the expenditure. While it wasn't surprising, it was disappointing that we faced a situation where the previous government had spent millions of dollars on just a lot of things that weren't of value. They didn't benefit Caymanians. So, I personally wasn't surprised. None of my colleagues were surprised. We basically just rolled up our sleeves and got to work.
So the CINP, you all went through like a lot of training and education on various things as you all went through that process.
We did.
So who did you run with before 4 years ago?
I ran as an independent. And again, I was very prepared then. I mean, I've been a social worker. My background is in social work, and I started off and has always maintained a level of social development. So I've always had my feet to the ground, when it came to our country. I love this country. I've done a lot of work in social development. So I understood, a number of the dynamics of what potentially would come up. 4 years ago when I ran on a ticket of, being different, not being so politicianist. I think our country is prepared now to host people who simply don't want to do politics as usual. They want people who are going to be able to roll up their sleeves and just get the job done and have integrity while doing it. And that hasn't been the norm in our history for probably 30 years.
I don't think it's been the norm in a lot of politics around the world. I think a lot of people around the world just want politicians to stop being politicians and get things done. So that's interesting. So another question I wanted to ask is so after election night and then the results are in, and I'm assuming all on a gather together. What I want to figure out is how you all decide who gets which ministry.
It all came down to experience, really. We didn't decide that on the night. What we decided on the night was, are we going to do this? And if we're going to do this, we need to do this with integrity. We stayed up for 2 days. The government was formed in 2 days, but it was formed on the premises that we need to do it with integrity. And if we're not, let's just go off and do our own thing.
And this is a coalition of you guys, right? So this is all of you there saying, okay, we come from different parties, but we want to treat this with integrity. So how do you all decide who runs which ministry? Do you all vote? Do you all be like, you good at that, you should do that?
All came down really to people's strengths. Yeah. Right. So everybody pegged me to run education. And while I could have, and I could still do a phenomenal job with education, Minister Anglin, it was a phenomenal education minister. I was part of his ministry when he was there, and we decided as a group that he should continue to build what he left off in 2013.
And that's when he last left off, Mr. Anglin,
absolutely.
in 2013. So what civil departments did you work in prior to?
I worked in social services, and then I went into my fresh out of college. I was a social worker. Then I went into the children's homes. I left that for a while and went back to the U.S. When I came back, I went back into the children's homes. I ran Bonaventure for a number of years.
Okay.
And politics happens. And, this is why I dislike politicians. People laugh when I say that. But I try very hard not to be a politician. And one, I suck at it. I'm not good at it.
Right.
Because I'm going to be honest with folks.
Sure.
My mother taught me that, and I'm not going to stray from that. And then that was between 2003 and 2007. Frank McFeel was the minister at the time, did a phenomenal job with social development. We did a lot of really great stuff. And then politics happened again in 2005, just after Ivan, and it completely decimated the work that he did. So I left the island again. And in 2010, I came back, and that's when 2009, Ralston and his team got in. And I came back to work under his ministry, but I straddled across multiple industries, working with at-risk kids in the Ministry of Education. So I worked in 4 different entities of the government, all in social development, and I got burnt out. I got burnt out on, ministers coming in who were not the specialists in the area and made decisions not because they were the specialists in the area, or even, requested, the people who were the specialists in the area. They didn't do that. They came in, they got a lot of money, they spent a lot of money, because it was never about doing anything for Caymanians. It was always about re-election. So I learned, very quickly that politicians aren't going to change the way that Caymanians are progressing. We needed a new identity. It took me a while to also do politics, because, as I said, I dislike politicians and how they do things, because you never get a straight answer, right? It's always about what they can get, what a politician can get out of it. I don't want anything out of this. So, that's where I separate myself. That's where the Caymanians National Party have separated ourselves, because it was never about, can I get a paycheck out of this? It was always, what can I do to serve our people?
So you said you went off to school and college and you left Cayman. Tell me a little bit. First of all, where were you born and what was your education like?
I'm a towner by heart. I never had expectations of going off to college, to be honest with you. I played football all my life. I played sports all my life, but specifically in football, I started playing, from a very young age at the Annex playing field.
What position you played?
Goalkeeper.
Goalkeeper, nice,
So
nice.
I went to school at Georgetown Primary School. I lived, where Funkatang is, right?
Yeah.
So I lived right across the street from that. So that's where I grew up, and that was fun because Georgetown became really my playground. So you could, I remember leaving in the morning at 6 o'clock and not coming back until 6 o'clock in the evening, and everybody knew your name. So we would climb breadfruit trees and ackee trees and mango trees, and we had a brilliant time. But we played football all summer long. I played football throughout high school. So I went to at the time it was the Cayman Islands Middle School when I transitioned from Georgetown Primary School, and then we transitioned from middle school to the Cayman Islands High School, and it was great because it was mixed population. Prepping Catholic didn't have high schools, so all of those kids came over to either middle school with us or came over to high school, and it stretched people in terms of education. So our education level was extremely high. And then from there, I played football all the way through high school. I didn't do well in high school. I could have done better. I shouldn't say I didn't do well. I could have done better.
Sure.
I was that C minus kid.
Okay.
And it wasn't until I was 16 plus years old, one of my mentors, Winston Chung, sat all of us down and said, "What are you going to do after high school?" And for the first time, I didn't really think about, because I was just going to play professional football, right? So I didn't really think about career because, to us, we were all going to be the next Pele or Maradona or, those were the, phenomenal players in my time in the 80s, 90s, and so forth. So for the first time, he sat us down and he specifically said to me, he's like, if you are going to have any say, he said, "Michael, you're going to have to go to college." And I laughed. I said, "Coach, college?" I said, "Coach, my people don't go to college." That's what I said. I said, "Coach, my people don't go to college. My people go to prison or we go work for the government." And he said, "I just want you guys," and it was about, 5th of us. I mean, we had a huge talent pool of players as well. I mean, a lot of guys got football scholarships. And he said to me, Jamaica started off just like the Cayman Islands. We were the gem of the Caribbean. He said, "You are the gem of the Caribbean. Just wait until people find out that your beaches here cost very little. You are going to see a He predicted it. He predicted the level of development that we would have.
Interesting.
And he predicted a lot of the corruption that we would have. He predicted that our people would become second-class citizens, that would be harder for us to get employed. He predicted that from the early 90s. And he said to me, "You're going to have to go to college." I said, "Coach, college is hard, man." He said, I said, "I barely made it out of high school." "College, coach?" He said, "I'm going to make a call." He sat with my mother and I. He made a call to a coach that was in Kentucky, but that coach was in Georgia. And that coach had taken about 5 or 6 Caymanians to a small school called Andrew College in Georgia. And the coach was starting a new program that 2 Caymanians were actually at in Kentucky, way up in the hills of Kentucky.
Wow.
And I mean, I knew nothing. I knew nothing about Kentucky. All I knew that it was a lot of discrimination for Black people. And here I am, a 16-year-old, trying to go to a place that I never even heard of. And he sat down with my mother and he said, "You're going to have to let him go." And the coach wants him. And this was like 1990. I just graduated high school in the summer. And he said the coach wants him in January of 1991. And my mother, and in those days, you didn't go up, you didn't fly up with your kid, right? You didn't go look at the school and go school. We couldn't afford that. There was one ticket, right? So she put me on a plane and said,
"Good luck.
You can do this. At any time you want to come home, you have, a round trip ticket. Get on a plane, call me, and I'll pick you up from the airport. But you can do this." So I left when I was 17 years old, and I remember walking into Lindsey Wilson College, that it was freezing cold, and I hate the cold. And I was 17 years old, and I looked around. It was about 1:30 in the morning, and I looked around. I'm like, I can't do 4 years of this. There's no way.
Seems daunting, right? That first semester.
I cannot do 4 years of this. And that morning I got up and I went outside with just about every piece of clothing that I had on. And I say, something? I can do this for my mother. She needs this win. And I remember going to my my graduation, my college grad, like it went so quickly, right? It was like that 17-year-old kid walked into Lindsey Wilson, and all of a sudden it was 4 years. And I remember going up to get my diploma and thinking back when I was 17 years old, saying, I can't do this.
Right.
So it was a great experience. It made me very independent, and it showed me a lot of things that what struggle and getting through struggle, keeping God close, you can accomplish anything. And for me, the sky was never the limit. My mother never put limitations on me. She never made me feel that, well, you can't do X, Y, and Z. Always shared her concern, but she's always said, if you can imagine it and you feel that it's in the best, you're in your best position to get this stuff done. And that's who I've become. Politics was never on my radar. I'm a worker, but I've always wanted to work for a government. I'm proud of our country. I played football at a very high level for about 20 years, all at the national level. Certainly, I played club here as well. We travel all over the world. I got my football because I'm Caymanian, and I got a scholarship, because I had lots of mentors, people like Winston Chung and Gilla Seymour. I mean, Coach Gilla has been a mentor of mine since I was 10 years old. We still are very close. Everton Edwards, who's also here as well. I've known him since I was 10. Jocelyn Morgan, Richard Marshall, who passed away a few years ago, was one of my first football coaches at Georgetown Primary School. So I've had a lot of phenomenal people, a lot of great teachers who've helped raise me, right? Cayman was a community, where the village raised the child, and that meant school. In the community, people looked out for you, people disciplined you, people talked to you, people were able to say, listen, young man, I know who your mama is, she wouldn't appreciate this. You need to go home and, keep out of trouble. But that's who we were, and that's what I came from. So those values have been, instilled in me from a very young age. I say to folks all the time, I'm imperfect. I don't put myself on a pedestal. I'm very humble when it comes to, who I am as a person. I still cringe when people call me the Honorable Michael Myles. I'm very respectful. My mother raised me that way. I know where my levels of integrity is, but I want to earn the title of being honorable, and I work every day to do that. And a lot of that has been my roots planted in Georgetown. My grandaunt, who still lives, I don't know if you remember the old Patterson shop.
Yes.
So I lived, that's where I grew up.
Okay.
So all of my clan, is
that area.
all back there, right?
That's such an interesting area to grow up, I think. right there downtown. Yeah. I guess you walked to school. I don't know.
We walked right up in the back. So
right.
We cut through the back. My grandmother, my paternal grandmother, who passed away many moons ago now, but she lived right up behind where my mother and my father lived, which was a hop, skip it, and jump. I mean, you walk through a fence, and I was hanging out with my grandmother. So all of my family was back there. So I grew up in a very large family, and I think that that's one of the things that we miss today because of how real estate have separated us as well. Like East Enders never really came out of East End. West Bayers never came out of West Bay, right? And when I say never, like they lived in West Bay. East Enders, they had property that was handed down from one generation to another. Towners, we basically, it was about us living in Georgetown. We want to be able to walk across the road. You got sugar, I have ice. We traded, and that's how it was. Now it's, a lot of it is becoming so gentrified, right? So, it's my grandaunt my great grandaunt still lives there. Raised my mother, raised me. She's also a pillar of who I am, and who I represent. My maternal grandmother passed away many years ago from cancer, and my maternal grandmother also passed away. So they were the sort of icons that I grew up feeling a lot of the discipline from. Like they would always, because I was always mischievous, right? I got into a lot of stuff. So, and they would always take me under their wing and coach me up. And, Michael, your mom works too hard. I mean, my mother worked 4 jobs.
Wow.
At one point. So, that's where the community came in, and, people like Gilla Seymour kept me off the street. right? And it's not just me. I mean, it was hundreds of us, that this man single-handedly.
Yeah, me too. I mean, Gilly, Coach Gilly, everybody knows Coach Gilly.
Yeah.
It's crazy how long his span, his time seems to have spanned through so many generations.
Yeah, and I'm 51, right?
Yeah,
so I mean,
like he don't age.
Yeah,
Gilly doesn't seem to age.
He has not, and that's what I tell people all the time. Oh, he's so miserable. Yeah, well, I met him when I was about 8, and he's never changed.
He's never changed. He was miserable back then too. But I mean, he's miserable in some sort of positive way.
Absolutely.
Right? That's endearing almost.
It wants the best for you. And he's never gotten his due. I think this country has done him a disservice. But those are the people that I keep up on. Lorna Lumsden was one of my first teachers at Georgetown Primary School. She is a phenomenal teacher. Taught me a lot about leadership. Leonora Mendoza Hyde was one of the most prominent teachers that I dealt with, that I was with when I was at Cayman Islands High School. Taught me a lot about leadership as well. A lot of people have put me forward and have taught me a lot about what it's like to lead. And as a teenager, you think that leadership is about being popular, right? And they taught me that leadership is about making hard decisions and being honest and having the integrity to stand up for your beliefs. And I never I didn't know that. Coach Gill always, I was always the captain of the national teams that I was on. So I was always the one that had to make the sacrifice. And it taught me a lot about not wanting material things. So I don't want for a lot, I don't wear jewelry. I don't need a lot of clothes. I'm just Michael, right? When people ask me, all the time, Honorable Myles, what would you prefer to be called? Just call me Michael, because at the end of the day, this is a conversation that we're having, and I want to make sure that people have a clear understanding that beyond politics, I'm still going to be Michael, right? I mean, let's take the honorable stuff off the table, right? I mean, at the end of the day, when I go home and I'm washing dishes, my wife don't call me the honorable Michael Myles, right? I'm just Michael, right? Dude, you need to go wash the clothes,
that's
right?
Funny.
I mean, you need to help clean up the house.
Maybe that would help husbands wash dishes, if the wives call them honorable.
Yeah. So none of that stuff, goes to my head or, makes me believe that I'm more than I am. The same things that I have done over the last 35 years of my career is what I'm doing now in the position that I am in, because I have walked in the backs of a lot of phenomenal people. They've allowed me to be the giant that I am, because they believe that I will always keep my feet flat on the ground, and I will never disappoint them in that, because the job doesn't mean a lot to me than the service, right? It's the service of why I'm doing this. The job itself, people ask me all the time if I'm going to do this again. I said, well, the people are going to have to determine that, right? Not me. My job is to do the best job that I can, and if prospect feels that, I've done the job, then yeah, I'll consider it. But I'm not considering that now. I'm considering doing the service part of it, right? And I believe that we've done politics all wrong. I've seen politicians, because I've been in government long enough, they come in with expectations of actually not doing a good job. They come in with expectations of actually getting reelected. And they're using government's money to do that. And when I say government's money, the people's money. So they come in, they build a lot of legacy items, and then they disappear, right? I don't want that to be what people remember me of. Right. I want people to remember me that, Michael did people building, right? I want to build people. That's why I've done things differently. Immigration is no different than any other agency, but it is a critical part of our identity and what we've been able to accomplish in life. We've built a country now. The unfortunate part is that what we've done with immigration is that we've not allowed the people in immigration to do their jobs effectively. It's always been a political football that we continue to kick down the way. I'm not doing that. What I'm doing is making sure that our people can enforce the law. It has never been that way. So we have to now get back to basics, where immigration is about, first and foremost, protecting Caymanians. Secondly, protecting our borders. We don't do that. right? So that's what I'm doing. When people say, well, you're messing up immigration. Tell me one way that I've messed up immigration. I've been doing this for 4 months. All I have done is ensure that people in immigration are doing their jobs without political interference, right? I ask the questions that I need to ask. I clarify. And if we're doing it wrong, I ask people to make it right, right? And that's people in immigration or people in the Department of Labor. The Department of Labor have done a phenomenal job with very little resources. We need to make sure it has a level of structure in terms of the reforming of their laws, or at least updating it. Hasn't been updated in almost 15 years, right? So the things that what I am doing is making sure that one of the first and foremost things is that the Caymanian people are protected, that they know that I got them, that I'm not going to get in and all of a sudden someone's going to own me. The Caymanians National Party has never said, well, now, Michael, now you're in, you now need to do our bidding. I've never had that. And I would never sign up for that, right? And I made it very clear when I joined the party, if that's what it is, I'm out, right? Because I don't need this job where people can call me and I have to do their bidding because all of a sudden you're giving me money on the campaign. When it becomes that, I don't need it.
It's over. It's over at that point, right? Because you're bought.
Absolutely.
So I think part of I want to definitely talk about the things that you're doing immigration wise and labor wise. But before that, I want to talk about Inspire Cayman, because I think there's a certain thread and continuity, even what you were telling me growing up in Georgetown to where you are now.
Yeah.
So tell us about Inspire Cayman, because I feel like that's like the precursor to what you're doing now, right? Is that a private business? Is that a not-for-profit? What is Inspire Cayman?
I started Inspire Badir out of frustration when I left the ministry in 2019. So I worked in the Ministry of Education from 2010 and I left in early January of 2017.
Come down a little bit this way. Thanks.
I was frustrated. I had sat in the ministry for 6 years. The first 3 years under Minister Anglin was brilliant. We were doing a lot of stuff. I was helping a lot of young people, in particular those that were struggling to get resources for things like ADHD or depression. Like I was doing a lot of mental health stuff in education. I was connecting families to resources, and I loved that. We were seeing things get done. When politics happened in 2013, all of that was shelved. The vision that what Ralston had created was actually shelved. Right.
What was 2013 again? What was that?
The 2013 was the election. So
and that's when PPM came in?
PPM came in. Okay. Well, it was a mixed coalition as well, right? So the PPM, and then they had the C4C group, and then of course
forgot about them.
Yeah. So it was the coalition that joined with the PPM government, and once they came in, everything just went all to hell, right? We didn't really get a lot done, and there was too much infighting. So I left the ministry in January of 2017, and I transitioned to Hope Academy. But a lot of the youngsters that I had dealt with, that I had worked with from Bonaventure to our public schools, a lot of those kids were going to prison, or a lot of young ladies were getting pregnant, or they were becoming unemployed for long periods of time. Like I had parents constantly calling me saying, Mr. Myles, Johnny is still not working, or, so-and-so needs a job, or, and I'm like, I just, like we were having an epidemic almost, right? And it didn't matter how passionate I got, how many politicians I spoke with, no one listened. So I transitioned to Hope Academy, and
what were you doing there?
I was the dean of students, and I was the operations manager, and I absolutely loved working on. I think Hope gave me hope that there's another way of doing education, and I absorbed it. We had about 120 something students from pre-K to grade 12. A lot of the youngsters at Hope had different diagnoses, and we had merged the therapeutic services with education. It was brilliant. Not perfect, not this perfect, but I loved it, man, because for the first time I saw teachers go out of their way to actually get the kid the help that the kid needs. And I saw parents come to the table and be able to say, something, I need to do this for my child, right? There was a level of continuity that I felt that Hope have that very few schools had. It was about using the collaborative way. Halfway through Hope, I still had a lot of calls from parents, saying, hey, my child can't get a job. I mean, many of these kids were 17, 18 years old, or I had kids who went off to college, couldn't get a job. I started saying, man, I need to do something. So, of course, like most Caymanians, I started complaining. Right?
All right.
My one, and this
Funny
was
how that doesn't get you very far.
It does not. And, I would go home each day and I would say to my wife, man, the government just needs to be doing more. So I like, and this was from the time I worked in the Ministry of Education. Jackie, my wife, was sort of my venting machines. I would go home and I would vent, of all the things that we could be doing better and more and, different. And, we can really do different this and different that. And long story short, finally one Saturday, we were folding clothes and I'm venting. And she's like, man, I love you, dude, but you need to stop complaining.
Yeah.
You need to do something.
Yeah.
It's
good advice.
And she was like, I think you should do something. And I'm like, but I don't have the money. She said, we are debt free. Figure it out, man. But you need to do something other than complaining about what this is. And we sat down for an hour and a half, 2 hours probably, and we came up with a concept. You need to start a training center. And it was one of the things that Winston Chung wanted me to start a long time ago.
Is that right?
Yeah. So
he seemed to really know what was coming due.
Yeah. He actually wanted me to start a training program or a training center for football players where we had a complex, and the complex would have residential units in it, and players could be flying from all over the world, and they would merge in this complex, and it would be sort of like a complex of excellence, right? So of course, Michael didn't have the money, for something like that. So, Jackie and I decided that we will build a small technical vocational education training center, and Inspire was born. And
that was 2019.
This was 2019,
and it's still going. What are the programs like, and the attendance? And
Inspire have morphed. I drove around in 2018. I drove around for an entire summer. I was working at Hope as well, but I wanted to understand why Caymanians were not actually going into like automotive and construction and the hospitality and so forth. My mom worked in the hospitality sector for 40 years, so I grew up watching her do a lot of phenomenal work in the hospitality sector. She worked at the old Holiday Inn where the Ritz is now. And then from there, she went into managing condos. So she managed like Villas of the Galleon and, she managed a number of condos in that major unit. And she managed condos all over the country. But I watched the level of customer service that she gave, and it was like, she would turn people around, man. People who didn't have a great experience from the airport to, customs, immigration, she would turn them around, and they would feel different about coming to the Cayman Islands. And I'm like, I used to watch her just, be amazing. And I'm like, man, I want to do that one day. So I wanted to give Cayman something that was different. And when Jackie and I thought about this program, it was always about how do we take a young person who's been beaten down by life and turn that person around. And that's how we created Inspire. Inspire started off on Eastern Avenue. We had about 1,000 square foot of space, just a little bit bigger than this room. And I worked full time at Hope. So I worked 8-9 hours at Hope, and I worked 6 hours every day for 2 years. So I worked part time, and it was a lot of hard lifting. And we got everything done. February of 2019, we were ready to open. And of course, the bureaucracy of government kept doors closed. I had kids lining up. I couldn't open the doors because of all the things that was going on within government. Because TVET Centers was also new. right? So government
TVET, what's that?
Well, technical vocational education training.
Okay.
Right. So TVET is the acronym. So
there's other TVETs out there?
Absolutely.
Okay.
So like Cayman Career Academy, that is run by Ms. Jackie Tomlinson.
Okay.
That's a TVET center. She does cosmetology. UCCI does a number of TVET centers. They also have construction, some automotive components, but they also have the hospitality program there. Superior Auto.
That's right. I've heard of that.
Is also a TVET center. Public Works also have a small construction program. So there's a number of us that's out there. I wanted to do something different. So I drove around for an entire summer in 2018 speaking to business owners because I worked at construction, that this monstrosity that's over here. I remember when I was about 12 years old, I was paid for the summer to pull bush over there, right? Where the Hyatt is now, where the Grand Hyatt is going up. I did that for an entire summer and loved it. Right? Absolutely loved it.
You love to pull in bush.
I loved pulling bush,
Interesting.
right? So we were paid, a number of us were paid to go over there and just clearing the area and so forth. So I didn't understand, what it meant to be a carpenter and a plumber and electrician, right? I mean, my family, there's a lot of folks in my family that have had these levels of credentials and certainly expertise, but I was never one, right? So I wanted to talk to business owners, and they gave me a lesson in what my programs should be. And I really thought it was just about skills. And they're like, Michael, I think it's noble of you to start this, but are you going to teach them how to show up for work on time? I said, what do you mean? I was just going to teach them how to be a trade worker. They're like, well, but we can do that. But I need them to show up to work on time. Are you going to teach them how to, wear the proper uniform? Are you going to teach them, how to be respectful and have a good attitude and it threw me. It for the first time I had to take a step back. I'm like, whoa, so this doesn't have a lot about skills. Yeah, you can teach them skills too, but 90% of the people that are going to be successful need to walk in here with a great attitude.
Right.
They need to be on time.
Right.
They need to actually work for their money. Like they can't work once in a while, right? I say, is that the norm? Like, this not the norm, but the kids that we're attracting to this, they're not taking it seriously, right? And sending the message that Caymanians don't want to work. And we know it's not true. However, it's not consistent. So I came up with a different concept for Inspire. Yes, we're going to teach skills, but we have to start teaching life skills.
Right.
8 years later, 99% of what Inspire teaches today is life skills training. 99%.
That's interesting because just now you were talking about when you were at Hope, how they combined education with a sort of therapeutic. Yes. And you don't really hear about that. Definitely when I went through school, it was just education. Yeah. There was no therapeutic side. Maybe there was like a counselor or something, but that was for like, you were crazy or something, right? Yeah. But I think now that, people understand that the therapeutic side of things is important. It's vital. It's fundamental for everyone. It doesn't mean that you're crazy. All humans sort of need this. Yep. And it seems like Inspire became
very
influenced by those ideas.
My God, man.
And so how important is that side of things then?
I would say 80% of it is.
Right.
80% of this. And I got the concept really from my time at Hope for 4 years, right? So I worked at Hope for about 4 years and I got the concept from Dr. Samantha Tibbetts because I saw how she blended, the treatment aspect of it with education. And I'm like, man, that's my model, right? I need to do TVET, but I need to do TVET with a treatment model as well. So, for the first 2 years, to be honest with you, I didn't have the money to start Inspire. I actually sold scooters, or I ran the skate park for about 13 years. And I didn't have the money and I didn't want to go to the bank to borrow it. So I came up with a concept that I would get into retail. Didn't want to get into retail, but I needed at least to raise $50,000. So I took on another part-time job and I started selling push scooters. I created a company and I got a retailer or a wholesaler, a guy I would fly down every year on his birthday and he would come to the park. And that's where I met him. And he owned the 8th largest indoor park in the world. He's from Canada. So him and I got to be, friends. And I said, I said, I'm struggling to, I want to do this retail thing. A lot of kids have been asking me about push scooters, but I don't know where to start. And he's like, well, here's a good friend of mine. And I called the guy. There's a group of folks, small group that out of Canada. They actually were selling some phenomenal scooters. And that's how it all started. I sold quite a bit of scooters, and Inspire was born. We opened up our doors on the 19th physically, but we didn't take on our first students until August 1st. And it was then, we grew so quickly between August and, of course, 2020, the entire country shut down as I was opening up and as things were going well. COVID didn't happen in, April, of 2020. And I was like, we had businesses from CUC coming in. Like we had a lot of companies.
That's pretty disappointing right off the start.
Man, I was like, oh my God, like what am I going to do now? Right? Because the entire world is shutting down. And for a long time there, I can tell you, well, I shouldn't say a long time. When we went into lockdown, I said to my wife, I refuse to teach online. I refuse. I am not teaching online. Technical vocational education training cannot be taught online.
Right.
It is not normal. Well, probably about a month into that, I changed. And a lot of it was, I was afraid of the technology.
Interesting.
I was at the time, Zoom had taken off. Right.
Right. That's exactly when Zoom took off.
Yeah. I was afraid, man. I was like, man, I don't know how to use this technology.
Right.
And therefore, I became obstinate to it. Again, we sat down and she's like, Michael, if you do not adjust, if you do not adapt, you are going to, everything, we're going to have a fire sale of all of the stuff. Because, Inspire was shut down. Everything stood still. And she's like, you're going to have to adjust. So I did. And she taught me how to use the technology. And my entire center transitioned online.
Interesting.
And then I got an idea. I had some folks who contacted me to say, well, since it's now COVID, people are not actually just because of, walking into a classroom anymore. People are actually now having self-paced courses. I say, well, what's a self-paced course? It's like, well, have you not taken a course on like LinkedIn? I'm like, I haven't. So she's like, well, go look at the LinkedIn courses. All of those are self-paced courses where you could start a course, and when you get tired, you cut it off and you come back the next day and you pick up where you left off. I'm like, that's freaking brilliant. So I bought 2 databases of all self-paced courses. So we went up from having a few, we probably had about 8 or 9 construction courses and 1 automotive course. I bought about 3,000 courses.
Wow.
And we took off. People were calling me from because I can then offer courses to anybody around the world.
Right.
And that's what happened. We became that organization who had certified courses online, and it was all self-paced. It was at a nominal price. I also did a lot of so I reworked Inspire into becoming a center of excellence to where people could also come in if they simply just needed to study and they needed a space. I provided that for them. And when we came out of COVID, we doubled in size. We went from 1,000 square foot of space to 2,000 square foot of space. And then we moved from Eastern Avenue. We went to Grand Harbor. We did a complete build out there. And within the first year, we ran out of space. So we went from 2 very large training centers, 2 very large classrooms. We then created 4 classrooms, and within a year, we were like, oh my God, where do we build into, right? So Grand Harbor didn't have any space either. So it took me about a year and a half to find space. So we are now in 5,000 square foot of space. And then I found some technology. Several years ago, another person contacted me. He was trying to get heavy equipment training program on island. And I said, well, what does it do? So he sent me some videos, and it was a simulator Like, what does a simulator do? He said, well, what it does is that instead of people practicing on actual machines, then most people aren't going to loan them because it's about wear and tear. They can actually practice on this. I said, is this for real? He's like, yeah. He said, I went to Sweden. I saw this, so I called the folks from Sweden. And man, that technology revolutionized how we do things. So we offer, I bought 2 heavy equipment training simulators. We then looked at the programming behind it. So each of the simulators had 24 different machines in it, where our people could do any training from. I mean, it is some of the most phenomenal technology that I've ever actually had to work with, but I knew that our folks also needed the application aspect of it and also the certification. So I contacted, it just so happened, I can tell you how God is good, is that every time I get into where it's like, what's next? I don't know, man, something just goes off and I just get a path, right? And another door opens. And, I had a lot of employers said, well, it's great that you're offering this, but can you get it certified? And I'm like, what do you mean get it certified? Like, people could come in, they can get the skills. Well, we need that piece of paper. So it just so happened that while I was talking to a number of employers about this, another organization called me from the UK, and now we have 9 machines certified. So now Caymanians could actually get that certification on island. They don't need to go and sit in a truck or an excavator or this or that. They can actually come and sit in the machine. And I mean, it is seamless, man. It is, the technology is so phenomenal that, like we get people who have been, backhoe operators for 2 decades, and they'll come in and, like I've been driving for years, and they're like, oh my God, like this is state of the art.
Right.
They've struggled because they've never actually done it right. So it teaches them how to do all of that right. So that's been great. But a lot of what we've done, so we've now moved to, and about a year and a half, about a year ago, we then moved to, we were growing so quickly that we moved to 5,000 square foot of space. We did a complete build out. So we moved from 4 training rooms to 12. And we've used every bit of that. So it is really cool to see Inspire explode like that. But what I have done is taken a concept of Inspire and moved it at a ministerial level.
And that's what I wanted to ask you, because I feel like if there's so much success with Inspire and sort of what you're doing there in the private sector, it's like it begs the question, can you be as effective in the government sector, or does that sort of, limit you or take away from what you're doing in the private sector? But obviously you wouldn't think so if you ran.
I mean, all of what I'm doing right now really is, we have a lot of talented civil servants who's been waiting for, I believe, somebody like me to give them the permission to do their jobs and do it well. And that's what I've done, right? I've ensured that people are doing it well, and I've gotten out of that, I've moved out of their way. Like, why are we hiring talented people and then hovering over them, right? What I'm doing is holding people accountable, and they hold me accountable. But I came in with the idea from CINP that we have deliverables, right? I'm not coming in to collect a salary, right? I was making money before. So, I mean, making more money it's like, that's not why I'm there, right? So it's about the service aspect of it, and it's about keeping Caymanians at the forefront of everything of what I do. So every time I walk into the building, every decision that I make the decision, is this in the best interest of our people? And if it's not, I don't make that decision.
So the part where you're talking about where these employers were telling you, look, these Caymanians, they can learn the skills, et cetera, but they're not showing up for work, or they don't have the good attitude. So a lot of people relate to that. Even in our business, when we have to hire people to come work on the big shoots, it's all about attitude.
Yeah.
It's really, that is the most important thing.
It is.
So what can we do about that? I feel like that's something that starts at the family level.
It's training. It's training. I'm telling you, Inspire have done it differently. I think another thing that we did with Inspire, about 3.5 years ago, And I couldn't afford it in the early years, but I saw it in the early years. You know, we have a lot of challenges with mental health, right? And I saw it in the early years, but I couldn't afford a therapist. And so I would refer those kids out. And every time it was just a bad experience for them. So when we moved, when we started to grow, I wrote a lot of grants to a lot of companies, and I told them what I was trying, like what I would like to do. I needed a full-time therapist, and that's what we have. So for the last 3.5 years, we paid for full-time therapists, and we've merged the services of everything of what we do. But we are Inspire. The concept behind Inspire is that we are in your face sort of organization. We treat it just like employment. So we are your employer. If you cannot actually come to us on time, you cannot get a job. Right. So that's the difference. Whereas with school, well, you could be late for school. Right. And there's no accountability for school. You can't be late for Inspire because we're not school. Right. We, Inspire became a concept that this is your job. This is what you're doing, because we pay them as well. Like they all get a stipend to show up on time. And when they don't do that, that money is removed. So it's about earning, right, rather than giving, right? And that was the concept, and it still is the concept behind Inspire. But there's also a number of things that we did different was wraparound services. Like we have a lot of people now, a lot of our young people who are homeless. Well, we needed to address that. So I wrote more grants to a number of companies. So we started to address things to that.
When you say you write grants, what does that mean?
So we, if we, like DART, for example, DART have a number of grants that you can write to establish programming. So I would write
to raise funds, you mean?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right,
so we write a lot of grants, and we've been able to raise a lot of funds to fund those things, right? And that's been really helpful to have. And because we've been able to do that, a lot of the challenges that a lot of these young people were experiencing, we were able to reduce. Because if you don't have transportation, how are you going to, you want to get to work on time, but if you don't have transportation, how do you get to work? If your child is and if you are a single mom or a single dad and you need childcare and you don't know how to navigate that, are you really going to actually get to work? You're not, right? Or, things like health insurance. Like we've had to purchase health insurance because we've had a lot of folks who are not well. They need to have health insurance. So we've been able to do a lot of that until they got employment, teaching them how to manage their money. So now you have a job, but a major part of Inspire is also teaching them financial management because now you're getting, because everybody's going to get paid, right? Once you get a job, you're going to get paid, but I'm now broke still. Well, it's because you're not using your money wisely, right? And you can't. The default is that the politician isn't here to bail you out. And I made it very clear to a lot of folks when I ran, if I have to pay you to vote for me, I'm out. I prefer to lose. You know what I mean? Like I'm not doing that. No, if you need help as your neighbor, and I know it's legitimate, I will help. But I'm going to help as Michael Myles, the citizen, not Michael Myles, the MP, right? That's where the philosophy has changed with the CINP way, is that we're not going to just give money because we want you to vote for us. We're gonna make sure that the help that we're giving is legitimate and that we're empowering you to do your part. So Inspire became about empowerment rather than I'm going to give you a job. We don't give people jobs. You're going to get yourself a job. 99% of the folks who walked into Inspire all have worked before. We rarely find, a person who's just never had a job, but they've never been able to keep a job because they didn't know what they wanted, right? They would sign on to a job and then they would turn around and complain that the job wasn't paying them enough. Well, did they give you a contract? Yeah.
Did you sign it?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Did you know what you were going to get paid?
Yeah.
Yes. Did you know what your benefits were? Yes. So why isn't it enough? My expenses is this. Yeah, but that's not the employer's fault, right? You signed on. So what we taught, Badir, is responsibility. That you are a responsible adult. Like you're not a victim here, right? And quite often we get into this us against them. And I'm sorry, but there's no us against them. Is there a number of things that's unfair within the Cayman Islands in terms of employment? Absolutely. I have seen it for the 8 years or 7.5 years now at Inspire, working with young people and working with employers. There's a lot of discrimination, but a lot of it could have been stomped out from my level because we've allowed a lot of businesses to come into Cayman and basically said, well, I'm not hiring Caymanians because Caymanians are lazy. And I have to correct people. When you say that Caymanians are lazy, you're telling me that my mother's lazy. I'm sorry, I refuse to accept that. Right. You're telling me that I'm lazy. You're telling me that my kids are lazy, or my aunt and uncles and people like my people work hard. You're like, our people work hard, right? Do we have a number of folks that doesn't matter what we do, they're probably going to make bad decisions? Absolutely, man. I've seen that as well. But that's not the norm, right? That is the few, right? What a number of organizations have done in this country is they've basically put up this brick wall that all Caymanians are lazy. And every time I hear it, I challenge that because it's offensive. It's like me saying that, well, all British people, are going to discriminate against me because I'm black, right? Well, that's not true, right? Or all Americans are violent, right? Because you go to America and you're going to get shot. Well, that's also not true. So why are we allowing people to come in here and tell us or dictate that we are lazy, therefore we can't get those jobs, right? So we've changed the concept, and I've strengthened when I worked at Inspire, I strengthened young people to be better. You're not the victim. Right? This is your opportunity to shine. You're going to have to start from somewhere. Another thing that I'm doing at the ministerial level is we have to start talking about pathways to careers and stop talking about jobs, right? At the conference that we had last week in collaboration with CETA.
It was awesome, by the way.
Well,
I really liked it and loved it. The vibe and energy was really good.
Yeah.
Lots of kids there, lots of other Caymanians there. I met a ton of people. It was awesome.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that. I wanted us to do it differently. And this is how the concept is going to be going forward. We need to stop talking about the hospitality sector as just jobs. The hospitality sector is a career path. You could start off as a bellman and you can still end up as a hotel manager. You need to choose what pathway you want. You can choose a pathway of food and beverage. You start off as a bartender and you can still end up as the F&B director. But you have to be able to choose.
So there's like a diverse offering of jobs for different personality types within the hospitality sector, right?
Absolutely.
It's not just the bartender.
Yeah.
You can be an accountant or in the strategy development or whatever it is.
You are right, my friend. You are exactly right. And, it's funny that you just brought up, I've seen, and I've worked in the hospitality sector. So when I left Bonaventure, I was just tired of the bureaucracy of government and failing kids. So I went to the Hyatt Regency and I got a job in human resources and loved it because I could apply all of the skills that I had in managing people into human resources.
Right.
So therefore, I got a professional designation in human resources. But I loved it because I was able to apply my social work skills in that.
And what's interesting is that you probably didn't realize before you were in HR that HR was even an option for you.
It was never.
Exactly.
I didn't even know that HR existed. Right? No one said, hey, there's this concept of human resources, right?
So the idea is that there's probably a lot of areas where Caymanians can fit in that they don't realize yet that they would actually be very good at.
Very awesome at. Very, very awesome at.
But they don't even sort of realize it exists. So
we don't talk to them about it.
It's about educating them on that aspect,
yes,
right?
And that's what Inspire brought. That's what I delivered at Inspire. That was very different from UCCI or ICCI. I stopped just teaching about math and English. We started teaching about life, right? Here's what you're going to face in your life, and you need to balance it with your personal life, right? All of us have problems, right? I mean, all of us are going to wake up one day and say, oh my God, I don't want to go to work today. Well, you kind of have to because you're still on your probationary period. And if you do not go, you're probably going to get fired. So you need to start making some good decisions. Like I used to teach a lot of single moms. Okay, your 6-year-old is not well. You are on probation. You cannot afford to miss work. What are you going to do? They never thought about it. because you know why? Because they felt that they could just skip work. And then they'll complain that they were fired. And I'm like, well, you can't complain because you signed the contract, right? But now you have to get creative. Who can you call before that stuff happens to say, hey, you know something? Granny,
I need a hand.
Absolutely, man. Call your grandmother. Hey, you know, I know that you're retired. There are times where John is probably going to be ill. Is it possible that I could just bring him over to you for the day? Absolutely. Let's sort that out, right? But no one teaches, no one prepares our young people like that. And that's why I believe that the hospitality sector have done us a great disservice. Because every time I hear a number of organizations, hotels speak, in particular hotels, they always talk about housekeeping in the service industry. And I'm like, but that's not the hospitality industry, right? Like that's like you're limiting it to that, right? But the hospitality industry is also accounting, HR, IT, right? It's also supervisors, managers, executives, right? And
event management.
Exactly, right? We never talk about that stuff, right? We also never talk about the benefits of it, of being able to travel to another country and work at another resort
That's
or
true.
another
You
hotel.
didn't really hear that at all.
I did that, right? So when I worked at the Hyatt Regency here, I did it for 2 years. When my wife decided she wanted to go back to Kentucky to live, I'm like, okay, I can't go without a job. I transferred. I transferred from the Hyatt Regency here to a boutique hotel in Louisville, Kentucky. They didn't have all of the positions in HR was filled already. So I transferred to accounting.
Right.
Because half my job at the Hyatt Regency was in accounting. I did all of the payroll. Well, I'm a social worker. I was taught how to do payroll. I was also taught how to do, I was also the benefits manager. So I did all of the health insurance for 500 plus employees, right? So when I transitioned, I was taught to do accounts receivables. I never did accounts receivables in my life, right? But I was taught that. And all of a sudden I hear people saying, well, you need to have luxury experience to work in a hotel. That is
not true.
It's just not true. And, you know, when I hear that, it's what the message you're sending is, I don't want Caymanians. That's the message that you're sending. And I think that that's wrong. And I think in my capacity as minister, I will continue to address that and certainly address organizations and hiring managers who are putting up walls to Caymanians being successful. And that's one of the things that I have said to our country. I'm a fierce defender of our people, and I will address our people when they're not doing the right thing. Because I'm not going to say, well, because you're Cayman, I'm going to overlook some of the bad decisions that you're doing. I'm not doing that.
And I think that, you know, since you've been in and you've sort of like, you know, roll this plan that you have, I think a lot of people are afraid of that. I think there's, you know, even in the employer community, in the expat community, a lot of people are afraid that what you're saying is the Caymanian deserves the job because he's Caymanian. But what I'm hearing from you now is that it's meritocracy, which is important to you.
Yep.
And the people that deserve the job, the people that work hard actually deserve the job. So
Absolutely.
What would you say to those? You know, because there are some expatriates who are a little bit nervous about you.
Sure.
What
They
do you
should be.
But based on this conversation, okay, they should be, sure. But what you're saying is not. You're saying that, you know, Caymanians that deserve the jobs should get the jobs, right? You're not saying that a Caymanian should deserve the job just because they're Caymanian. And you're actively working at making Caymanians, you know, being responsible, teaching the life skills, showing up day in, day out, putting in the hard work. So what kind of message would you give to them? I know you're here to represent Caymanians.
It's simply just that, right? I meet a number of hiring managers and I make it very clear. I am not here to intrude on business. Commerce is why this country has been successful. I'm not here to, you know, somewhere down the line, you know, stop this engine of making money. Because again, I am also a small business owner, right? However, what I have seen is a consistent level of discrimination against our people. And we cannot have that anymore. We have 4 immigration boards, but I make it a point to sit in on all of them at least once a week at least once a month because I wanted to learn. My first 4.5 months have been a great learning experience because I've had a lot of really good people around me guiding me to where some of the challenges are. And some of the challenges that I've seen have been me visiting the board meetings and understanding what's going on with immigration on a whole. And I have seen levels of discrimination that it is just beyond blatant levels of discrimination. I have seen employers peg ads, put them on the Jobs Cayman site specifically for a person that they already have in mind to hire, not our people. I have seen Caymanians get passed over, jobs become redundant, and then turn around and hire a person back into that same job, all in the last 4 months. So I'm not telling you this based on hearsay. I'm telling you this based on I've seen it because I've made it I've made myself very present to sit in on all of these meetings to understand what's going on in immigration. I've also made it very clear, I'm not an immigration specialist. My job as a minister is to make sure that immigration runs and works specifically for Caymanians first. And I will not apologize for that.
So how rampant is that discrimination, would you say? Is it like,
Very much so. It's very rampant, and it's rampant now. It's now more rampant at a corporate level. First, I thought it was just small business owners. It is not just small business owners anymore. The corporate and white collar level is Caymanians being passed over for employment, even though they're qualified. I have seen Caymanians, and all of this is my personal experience or my professional experience in the last 4.5 months. I have seen from the legal to accounting aspect to financial services to other retail aspects where Caymanians are qualified, they have the experience. Oh, well, you're too experienced. You're too qualified. You're overqualified, right? These are the things, and this is what I've sent to you. It is more and more rampant now because we run an immigration system not to protect Caymanians. We run an immigration system, one, to increase our population. That's what immigration has been set up for.
To increase our population.
Increase our population.
That's a goal.
That is the goal.
Okay.
Right? Because the more people we have is the more money immigration makes. It's about fees. So immigration became two things in the last decade. Increasing our population and collecting work permit fees. We now have over 38,000 work permits in the country. I am not arrogant to think that we're going to fill every job in the Cayman Islands. We have more jobs than we have Caymanians.
Right.
However, I have seen the levels of discrimination that has grown because of politics and politicians. Because we have politicians who've been able to just turn the blind eye. They've been able to say, well, I'm going to allow this person to do that because they bring in X amount of money in the country. But guess what you're doing to the Caymanian? Those young people have become so neutralized that they now end up on welfare. And that's what we've done. So welfare is now costing us about $50 million.
So you're not really helping anyway, even though you're bringing in more money, it's going right out the door.
And that's what I've said to a lot of folks. But their immigration makes about $135 million a year. Now, if we are paying welfare at $50-60 million a year, half of that immigration money gone, right? Now let's look at crime. Northwood Prison is costing us another $30 million. Gone. The police is costing us about $70 million. Do we have any immigration money left? No, we don't, because it's all going to social programs.
I mean, I just don't imagine that should be a goal of the immigration department is to raise revenue. I just don't see how.
I totally agree with you. And that's why immigration at the end of the day is going to make money regardless of who's the minister. Because again, we have more jobs than we have people. But that's not my goal. My goal isn't to raise the population here. Right? My goal is to protect Caymanians and to protect our borders. We're also allowing a lot of the foreign community to be exploited. I have seen employers, big and small, bring people into the country knowing they don't have the work for them and turn around and exploit them. And here's what I mean by that.
Why would they do that?
Because they're making money off of these people. So I bring you in from Nepal. I don't really have a job for you, right?
But why bring you in if I don't have a job for you? That's the part I don't get.
Because I can then pimp you out to another company and that company pays me.
Okay.
Or I have you walk around this country and you go find a job, and then you give me 20% of what you make.
Interesting.
And that has been the growing phenomenon.
Wow.
Right? I've also seen women come into the country, and we know it. Right? I talked to the police. I talked to a number of police officers about this. We've talked a lot about this with our compliance team in immigration. We've now seen a number of foreign females fall into prostitution, right? We've seen a number of criminal behavior. We've seen a number of foreign staff come in. They're not making the type of money, so they're now homeless, right? We've seen, in particular, from the Indian population to the Nepalese, and in addition to other small population come in, and they're living. Some of them are living 10 or 12 to a 2-bedroom apartment, right?
It's funny. I've been approached by a few Nepalese on island looking for more work.
Yes. Absolutely.
And they're here doing something already on a permit.
Well, here's what we're forcing them to do: break the law, right? Why? Well, as a business owner, you knew that you didn't have the work for these folks, and yet you bring them from, a very far away country that now they're trapped here because you can't get them back home because they're not making enough money to go back home. So what do? They break the law. They don't work within their work permits. And at the end of the day, what is it costing us? I now have to hire more enforcement officers to enforce that. Well, where is that money coming from? It's coming from you, the citizen. Because all we're going to do is tax you more, right? All because we have irresponsible business owners who's capitalizing on the many loopholes that my predecessors have created, right? Shouldn't be that way, but that's what it is. So what all I have done in the last 4.5 months is get out of the way so our people can enforce the law. Our people have been chomping at the bits to enforce the law. We have laws, right? We always sit down, almost every conversation that I've been in with a number of different pockets of people that said, why does Cayman have so much laws and you don't enforce anything? Well, that's what I'm doing. So people are bawling out saying, well, immigration is changing. It hasn't. I haven't implemented one immigration law in the last 4.5 months.
Right.
Yet people are telling me that immigration has changed. I haven't changed anything. I am bringing laws, right? But none of those laws have hit Parliament yet. We have to make sure that we're enforcing the law. So people are bawling out, in particular people from, the expat community who are saying, well, I don't know about this Michael Myles because, he's just too pro-Caymanian. I am. I'm not going to apologize for that. But I'm not going to say, well, I'm going to let Caymanians just not show up for work and get paid. I'm not that Caymanian, right?
And that's the distinction, right? And I think that is the important distinction. It's interesting that Cayman's economy is so strong that I know you got to leave, so I'll ask you one more question and we can go. But it's interesting that, we have this, we're kind of like the US of the Caribbean, where you have people from all over the world trying to get in to Cayman, and because it's such a vibrant and strong economy, it's a stronger than the US dollar, for crying out loud. I know it's a high cost of living, etc., but it's just interesting that we live in that island where
I've seen people who jump, but I've met people who've jumped on a plane as far as India without signing a contract and come and fly here, right? And you're right, it's no different than the Mexicans crossing the Rio Grande to try to get into the U.S., which is, the holy grail of countries to get into.
On one hand, it's a good thing because it shows how good your country is, how strong it is economically. But on the other hand, it's not good because you need some kind of control or some kind of flow.
And that's what immigration is
for people coming in.
And that's my biggest fear is that the folks from, we don't border anyone. So no one is walking across the border, right? No one is swimming across the border. We occasionally have, the folks from Cuba who show up on our shores by boat. But let's face it, man, people are jumping on planes and they're flying from all over the world and we're not doing the checks and balances. So our goal is also to have a joined up service as well. We have, and one of the things that we are now bringing in as a government is we're breaking down silos, man. I'm so tired of us duplicating services or efforts. So a major part of what I'm now doing is, breaking down the silo of working with DCI, because now we need to monitor more, unscrupulous employers. DCI has leveraged us as well. We're working with HSA, the Health Insurance Commission. We are working with the Department of Labor and Pension, which is also a department that's under us. We have to be able to share information. We have information, man. We have lots of information. We have lots of data. We don't share it, right? A major thing of what we're working on now is also breaking down the silo with education. Education provides almost $40 million of scholarships every year to our people. It is unprecedented. Most countries don't have that.
That's
right?
great. That's great.
Oh my God, it's phenomenal, right?
That we are even in a position to offer that.
We are very wealthy. However, what happens when those kids come home? So I don't know about any of those kids being overseas, and this is what Minister England and I are working on, right? Is that, okay, so you're expecting me to place them, but I don't know that they even exist.
Right.
And all you needed to do is share the information with me. So when a youngster gets a scholarship, that person's name, where they're going, what they're studying, when they're coming back, that needs to be shared with, Director Scott, because we have to get a plan together of when that youngster come back, that youngster need to fit into our labor pool, right? That has never been done. We're now doing that, because that is going to be a game changer for our country. What if I said to you when you were away at college, you knew where you were coming back to work? Man, I mean, just imagine right now we have 950 plus kids in an overseas university. Just think about that. The Cayman Islands have 950 kids, right? It is a phenomenal feat. We have youngsters we have well over 180 plus kids between prep in Catholic that are doing their A-levels. Phenomenal. We have at least 280 kids at UCCI, right? I can give you stats that, I mean, I am just so blessed to have all this talent. However, they're having to come back to Cayman. But we have 38,000 work permits, and those kids, when they come out, they can't get a job. What are they going to do? So we have just blown $40 million. We're not going to get our return on investment. We have to make sure that those youngsters have employment upon their return. And if we can't do that, we have failed them. And that's why this is a lot of what I'm doing is about service. And while I'm also here to make sure that our commerce continues to run, people in our country, Badir, are making a lot of money. Businesses is making money, from our healthcare industry to our construction industry to our financial services industry. All of these organizations in our country are important, but we cannot allow them to discriminate our people and feel that because they are paying for a work permit that we should just shut up and take the money and look the other way. I'm not doing that. So I've made it very clear to a lot of folks, I'm willing to work with anyone who wants to come to the table to make sure that our talented people that we have coming in from college or a vocational technical school here, that they have employment. And if they can't have that, then I'm going to make it hard for everyone else to get employment in our country. That's just what it is for me, right? So you cannot tell me that you're going to bring in your own people when we have our people who need a job, who need to be able to live here. But I must just accept that, well, this is just a way of doing business. It's not, and it's not business as usual anymore. And that's why I really enjoy talking to my coalition colleagues, because they feel the same way. Everybody in our coalition ran on improving our immigration system. I'm carrying it out. This is not about Myles and immigration, right? This is the coalition. Like, I'm not doing anything that the coalition isn't asking me to do, right? And if the coalition feels that this is not important, my friend, I'll pack this stuff up and I'll focus on something else. But it is important because we're increasing other areas now. We've seen the prison system increase. We now need a new prison. We've also seen the police are coming back and saying, well, crime is on the increase. There's a lot of people who are just sitting around doing nothing, from the foreigners to our people as well, and social services. right? So you have social services and you have the Department of Financial Assistance who is saying, man, we are seeing spikes, right? We are also seeing, folks now from even Meals on Wheels that are saying we're not just feeding the elderly anymore. We're feeding young people between 18 and 25, right? So all of this are peen pills, all the way around. How do we manage this? We have to make sure that people are, one, employed, consistently being trained, and moved up in the ranks so they can support themselves and their families. Government's responsibility has always been to create opportunity, not have people become dependent on it, right? And I think that we have gone about this very wrong over the last 20 years.
Awesome stuff. Thanks very much. I just have one last question before we go, and I just kind of want your opinion on entrepreneurism and the part that plays, if at all, the importance of that. I don't remember personally growing up in Cayman, going to school, ever being taught that I should, hey, you could consider opening a business. It never even crossed my mind till I was in my 30s.
You and me both.
So is that a thing? Should we be exploring that more?
Pushing it. It should be a subject area. A matter of fact, I made entrepreneurship a staple item at Inspire. We actually teach it because I believe that we need to get away from also teaching our people how to be employees. We need to start actually teaching our people how to be employees.
Yes, definitely.
No one taught me as well. My mother runs small pockets of business. I was really never involved in those. But she was also self-taught. Like I've told you, when I formed Inspire, I wasn't a businessman. I drove around for an entire summer in 2018 trying to figure out what were the needs. It never dawned on me that I was in a sort of businessman, but I had to learn quickly.
But just the fact that you did that was a very business savvy move to actually study the market and understand what the needs were.
Absolutely.
But I think that's interesting. I don't think we hear enough about Caymanian entrepreneurs and taking that path,
We don't teach it. We teach our people how to be employees, and we teach them that just getting a good job is enough. And we have so many talented young people that actually could do their own business. And my goal has always been, is to ensure that people also understand that they don't have to accept where they are. If you want to actually change your surroundings, then go ahead and do that. Just like I did, man. I was a complainer as well. I did a lot of stuff. I'm a doer as well. But man, I felt paralyzed when I wasn't in the government because I felt like the government should be doing more. Because I used to see the government, and when I say the government, politicians spend a lot of money on a lot of things that this did not make sense. Like they'd come into government, and I'm a former civil servant, and all of a sudden they would spend money on something, and I'm like, what does that have to do with people, right? So taking over the ministry of what I have, of Caymanian employment, I started to say, I'm not here to build a legacy, right? My legacy isn't a building. Right, my legacy is about people. So I've poured a lot back into how are we going to get people back into the employment market, but also accepting that they should not just accept being a bellman. That's where you're going to start. But I need you now to look at, can you be in charge of the front desk, right? Yes, you're going to start off in housekeeping, but can you be the housekeeping supervisor as well, right? Those are the things that I believe that our messaging in government have to be. Can you own the hotel, right? Can you at least, like I ran a little small business that I still worked full time, but I was still selling scooters at the back of my car, right? So I started to become very entrepreneurial, and my daughters are now more entrepreneurial because they started to see me do a lot of that stuff. So they're now thinking, how can I do how can I get out there and start to do some stuff? We also have to make it okay to fail.
Yeah. But
we have to make it
be an entrepreneur. You better get used to that,
right? We do not do that.
No,
right?
that's hard.
Because failure is I'm a failure, and not That's just a different way of doing this.
Yeah.
So,
and then you have, especially as a Caymanian, you have the everyone's seen me fail.
Yep.
And it's Cayman because everyone does see you fail.
Yeah.
You know, and it's hard to get past that.
Man, I love failing today, man.
Yeah.
I go out of my way to fail because I want to fail fast. Because the faster I fail is the faster I know that there's another way of doing it. So I'm always out there. I'm like, okay, let me just go ahead and get this stuff done. Wow, okay, there's another way of doing this. And I get excited about failure now because, my wife got me into reading. Well, I listen to a lot of podcasts, but I read a lot of books on Audible now. And it's been, for the last 3 years, I've really challenged myself to really understand the mind of the entrepreneur, right? Because as I got into business and started to really take it more seriously, the more readings that I have. So last year, 2 years ago, I set a goal to read 5 books, right? I ended up reading 10, or I listened to 10 anyways, right? So last year I said, man, I want to listen to about 25 books. And I ended up listening to about 32. And it was phenomenal, right? I mean, so I was listening to, folks from all sorts of industry. And the biggest difference maker that they said, they failed big and they failed quickly.
Often. Yeah.
They fail quickly, man. Get it out of the way quickly.
Right.
And because of them doing that quickly, they were able to make the millions that they've made and just become successful people all around.
And then people don't see those failures, so they don't think it happened. But when you do read those books, you realize that the one thing that all those entrepreneurs have in common is that they fail.
Oh my God, they fail all the time. And that's what I tell young people now. Like people say, well, Mr. Myles, but you're a success. I say, yeah, but you didn't see the 15 hours, that I was putting in 7 years ago, 8 years ago, right? Like you didn't see the countless nights that I was up. You didn't see all of the hats that I was wearing. So, I'm doing marketing and I'm doing this and I'm doing that, but I've learned all along the way to consistently surround myself with a lot of good people. And I think that's what my ministry has, is a lot of really phenomenal people who've been civil servants for many, many years. Some of them have been civil servants for 3 decades, right? And at the end of the day, I'm bringing in the sort of private sector now of, man, we can do this differently. Like we can absolutely do this differently, but we absolutely have to get out of our own way in order to get this done. I think another thing that, that I've brought in is that our level of communication have to get better. The civil service don't communicate well, and they don't certainly communicate with each other. And I've said, we are not doing that. We're not doing it like that anymore. The people that are on the ground that are doing the work absolutely have to know what's going on in the ministry, right? So I'm communicating up and down the ministry, right? From the departments, I reach out to the departments regularly. I reach out to our personnel regularly. I want people to know what I am doing on a regular basis because I'm an extension of them, right? I am not changing laws that they can't implement because that's how it was always done, and I don't want to continue to do that. So that's a lot of where I believe that a lot of my sort of foundation came, because I hated as a civil servant not having access to information because I always had politicians who grabbed all that information, never really included the civil service, and then we end up becoming bitter, right? And I don't want people to survive Michael Myles. I want people to be able to join me and the mission that I am on to serve Caymanians.
I really love the idea that you keep saying silos, and we've learned that here at CICBD at the Small Business Development Program here at CICBD. And one thing that we learned is that as businesses grow, they tend to build more silos. And I can imagine government's the same. The bigger government, the more silos. But one of the important things is that you got to knock those silos down. And communication and information has to flow between the different departments. You know what I mean?
You're exactly right. And that's what we've done different.
Yeah. So I'm happy to hear that you have that in your mind. And I know that exists in government.
Oh, absolutely. So, it's tough to do your job when you know that there are other moving parts that quite often, like we have the client or the student that we're all working with. We know that we're working with that client or student, but yet we don't reach across and say, hey, Badir, I know that you're dealing with Michael. Here's what I'm doing for Michael. What are you doing for Michael? If we do that, we would decrease significantly our government budget. And that's what we're doing now. Since Monday, we've been working from about 10 o'clock each day, 10 o'clock in the morning each day until midnight. And it's been grand. It's been phenomenal. I've had a great time. I did not know that, and I know it's not the norm because everyone have told me, our current group, because they were involved in the last government, some of them have been, politicians before as well, and they've said, this is not the norm. I want you to know that us doing this, where we're collaborating and not fighting, that's not the norm. We've had a great time. And last night we all left at about 1 o'clock and 1 a.m.
Wow.
I didn't get home till about 1:15, 1:20, something like that. But we had a brilliant time sitting down in fellowship and sharing information and saying, something, I'm going to bring my budget down so your budget could be this because this is important for our people. That's when I know that we've arrived, because I see now my colleagues saying, here's what's important to us. It's not my legacy. It's not this or that. It's the people of our country. Man, I'm telling you, man, I sat in that room for the last 3 days, and I've looked around and I'm like, man, these people really get it. They get it. And we have our own disagreements. I mean, we agree to disagree. So it's not like it's, like we are just all friendly and so forth. It's not that, right? Like we don't, just be friendly for the sake of being friendly. But people are expressing their opinions. But what I have is that people are saying, okay, let me help you with that, or let's co-budget, let me carry the half of the budget here and you carry it because we're dealing with the same people. That has never existed in government. And that's where I believe that as people, not politicians, we have a really great opportunity here to change the game. And that's what I'm about right now. How do we have Caymanians look at the government and say, something, I want to actually put my hand in this. I want to be a politician, because being a politician isn't about destroying people. It's about building people up, right? It doesn't matter what color you have. You're Caymanian. We're all here for the same folks. I don't care if you're wearing red or blue or green or whatever. Stuff doesn't matter to me. You need support. My job is to serve as much as I possibly can, but my job is also be honest, to have integrity to say, Badir, I can't do that, right? I've been asked to do a number of things. I'm not crossing that line, right? Whereas politicians before, they'll just make that happen because, that person has 10 votes in their house. Well, I don't really care about that. Does the person need support? No. Well, that like I'm not going to give you things because you think that, you control 10 votes. It doesn't matter to me because, one of the things I've shared with a lot of folks, in particular in Prospect, as I canvass, is that I lost 4 years ago. I didn't starve, right? I don't need this that bad that I'm going to sell my soul, right? If you are going to vote for me, it's because you have respect for me and I have mutual respect for you. And it's because you know that I'm going to serve you well. You, the public, I'm going to serve you with integrity. I'm going to stand up for what is right. And I am going to make sure that the wrongs, I can come back and say, something, the government isn't doing that. I have made it very clear. We are not where we need to be with immigration. We're not where we need to be with employment. We're not. We're not where we need to be with a number of different aspects of health, for example. We're not there. Minister Wilkes have said, we have to get this better. And you know what we're saying? Let's help you, right? It's not that I am just immigration. I'm saying to Minister Wilkes, we are sharing some of the same clients as well, right? We're sharing our people as well. They need to get healthy. How can we help? So we budget together. We are solving problems together. And there are things that, Mr. Ebanks, for example, he's saying, something, Michael, here's what I see, that, people are saying about immigration. I'm trying to fix that, right? Minister Anglin has certainly been doing it a very long time. So, he's also guiding us. The Premier has been phenomenal, because he can sit down and have an appreciation for all of these different sides and merge that together. And he has a knack for that. And I have a lot of time and respect for the man because he loves his country, but his ego has been checked at the door, and he walks in and he's part of the team. He doesn't wear the premier's hat. He's just part of the coalition, and he's part of what we do every single day, right? His vote isn't more important than mine. He doesn't make any one of us feel that his vote is more important. He's just part of the group. And that's, I think, the difference with what we're building. And I'm hoping that beyond me, I want to pull other young people into this, because like I said, this is not a career for me. I'm not I don't aspire to be a politician, right? You know, I'm doing this for 4 years. After that, the prospect community have to be able to say, do they want me to do this again? And if I'm not successful in doing this, I'll fire myself. After 4 years, I don't need to do it again. Like I don't need to run for the sake of running, right? I want to be able to run because I was successful in doing this, and I will tell you that I will know when I'm successful, because people are going to be back to work. Our immigration system and our Department of Labor system are going to be humming a little bit better, and people are going to be communicating with each other a little bit better. Those are the things that I want to do. It is not me against the expat community or against, the business community. We need business, right? But they have to do the right thing. And right now I can tell you it is a growing problem where I'm seeing business making criminal behavior, criminal decisions. And they're going to be held accountable, because that's where I'm serious about making sure that, even the expatriate community isn't being exploited. And that's what I've been seeing, that our people are certainly being exploited because we're being passed over, not just for jobs, but for promotions, right? For pay increases. You speak out, you get fired, right? There's a lot of fear all the way around. And we need to get away from that. I don't think it needs to be so adversarial. We have to get back to the time where Caymanians, at the end of the day, if you're not showing up for work, discipline me based on that. But it should not be because I'm Caymanian and you just want to get me out of the job because you have someone in Nepal that you want to bring in. That's how Caymanians feel today. The average Caymanian, I can tell you, feels that way.
Well, thank you very much for being on the podcast with me. I really appreciate it. I know you're real busy and, doing the things that you do. I really appreciate your perspective. Thanks for sharing it. And I wish you the best of luck.
No, thank you. I appreciate you having me, man. Appreciate it.
Take care.
Yeah.